Hey guys, earlier today I pulled for Graph with tickets. Didn't get them, got it instead. And as someone said in the comments of that video, when you're given lemons, you make lemonade. So we're going to use the id that I got today in a few clears. People asked me to do some re-clears on these day one bosses. The first two, G Elements and Hammer, are super easy. I don't think anyone needs help capping those because the damage cap is only 1 billion, which is very, very low. Deuce and the other two are a little harder to cap. We're going to be using a fire team. And I'm so used to saying Deuce, people correct me and tell me it's Deus, so I'm going to try to say Deus. So Deus is weak to fire, and we're using a fire team anyway, so if we cap these others, you can use the same strategy on Deus, it'll be no problem. But we're going to go to the actual hardest two of the day one guys, the Opiomorph and the A guy. So we're going to go to this with a fire team, because I'm trying to showcase id. Now, is this the best way to do this team? Absolutely not. I'm sure there's way better teams out there. But we're going to be using id because I got him today. I'm trying to feel better about myself. I got to feel like that wasn't just a wasted Neovision. So we're going to take id to these two bosses and use him. Now, as I mentioned in the pull video, having id at only EX1 is a tremendous handicap. You need EX2 for his good buff, but I mean, I've got an EX1, you do what you gotta do. So we're gonna use Tyvus' Spirit as like something of a buff, but still, whatever. So here's the party. We're gonna go ahead and get into it, and then I'll show you the gear, assuming we damage cap. It's an aquatic machine weak to the earth element. We're having Steiner as our passive provoker. Alright, so to start off, we're gonna have Louise, just quad Ionic. That's the fill LB gauge for our Steiner. We're going to use Aerith to shifted LB for the stat buff. Now notice this boss does have accuracy. Evasion, which could be a problem for our id. Now the boss is weak to earth, so we're going to use id in the base form to imbue himself with earth using the Craftsman's Secret Book. Vivi will do Life's Radiance, threefold Farega, and Encouragement. Venera can just use Imperil for the Earth Imperil primarily. And Steiner's LB is good to go, so we don't really need anything here, so we can just just hang out. He's passive provoking this stuff. Okay, the boss doesn't really do much, so whatever. Now, id is going to use Tyvus' STMR to buff himself. Preferably, you would use his EX2 cooldown in the shift form to do a way better buff than Tyvus' STMR. I don't have EX2, so Tyvus' STMR is like the budget option, kind of. So Aerith is going to double. We're going to go ahead and Wish to Save the Planet. That's for the Rod and Peril and the Machine Killer. And we'll Ardent Prayer for an AoE Amplify. Venera can do her Good Break. Now these guys have low passive or no passive stats, so the big breaks are absolutely better for damage. So if you have a source of a really, really big defense or spirit break, that will increase your damage pretty dramatically. Louise is going to field buff. We're going to do a good spirit break, and we'll do a killer buff for the aquatic killer. And then just whatever. Don't need you yet, Steiner. I could focus Vivi, but he's currently using... I mean, we'll do it because there's no reason not to. But we're currently using Vivi's... we're using the Clash of Wills gear, so that actually consumes focus. Oh, actually, he's not using Clash of Wills gear in the base form, so focus is okay now that I think about it. And we are using Dark Resist on the party as well. Anyway, so now we don't really need anything else from anybody. We have done everything. Yes, we're good to go. So we'll use Steiner to reflect. We will shift Vivi and quad Farega. That's going to give us the chain count score as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to shift id and do his shifted LB. Okay, so like I said, the boss has evasion, so it's very possible that id misses. If that's the case, well, there goes 40 energy. We've got to orange. I think if the boss has either 30 or 40% evasion, so there's a decent chance we don't miss, but we could. Here we go. Alright, id. If the first hits, they all hit. I don't see any blue hits in there. It looks like we have a evasion. Yep, we evaded. the boss evaded. Son of a... Maybe I should get an accuracy buff in here somehow. Who could I drop for an accuracy buff? Yeah, Vivi without id didn't cut it. We need 2.06. I'm just gonna run it again, and I will see you guys in a second. We're just gonna hope that id hits because yeah, id missed because he's not using weapons. Therefore, we can't gear for accuracy. So I will see you in just a sec to rerun that on the kill turn. All right, guys, we're gonna be trying that again, and we're just gonna be like, fingers crossed that id hits. You know, it's an LB, so we only needed to hit. You know, just get credit for actually hitting because it's not like a multiple check. It's just either yes or a no. So hopefully this time is a yes. And I mean, I could like fit an accuracy buff on the team, but do I really need to? I don't think so. I hope not. Let's go ahead and do this. Wait for him to finish. All right. All right, id. Please don't miss. There we go. I saw blue, so we're good. We're good. And there's the final hit. So we're looking for 2.06 or better, I think. Now that id actually landed. Hopefully we have it. Yep, 2.3. Okay, so there we go. So the problem was id missing. So Vivi does approximately 500 million. Even though he's the wrong element, you know, you can go off element sometimes. It's obviously harder, but it works if you need to. There's a damage breakdown. Id almost capped by himself. And keep in mind, we did a Earth Imbue with the Craftsman's Book. No Earth Amplify at all. If we had given id an Earth Amplify from like Roka, Behemi, who else amplifies Earth? Roka, Behemi, there's got to be more. Is that it? Sylvie can do Earth Amplify by 30%. Yeah, so if we'd given him an Earth Amplify, he probably could have honestly solo carried that by himself without Vivi, and we could have gotten the chain count score elsewhere, but whatever. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and show the gear. So we're provoking with Steiner. The whole party has Dark Resist. That's honestly for the next boss. Evasion, provoke, Steiner. He's got LB fill, so we can get his LB nice and easy. Although with Louise, not that big a deal. Just some Dark Resist on Venera, and she's on an Esper for the Imperil spell, for the Earth Imperil, because we're not using a good Earth Imperil. It's only for this fight. We're not going to need it for the next fight. She's for the 90% defense break. You can also replace her with Hawkeye, or Crown the Lock, or Laura Croft. Another option is 89% defense break with Cacteria. Louise, just a little bit of Dark Resist. LB Fill, 90% Spirit Break. Fire Field, AoE killer to every race. And yeah. Aerith, big stat buff, just Dark Resist. Big stat buff, Rod Imperil, Machine Killer. Fire Amplify, because an EX1 id cannot amplify himself. Base form Vivi, just Dark Resist. Shift form, damage versus machines and aquatic. There's the build we're using. He did wrong element 500 million. 245 machine and 145 aquatic. And then id, actually, did I do this? Yeah. And then id, base form, Craftsman's Book for the Earth Imbue. And again, now that I'm looking at it and back, I should have added Roka and done her buffs instead. Would have been way higher damage if we had amplified Earth, but we didn't. Oh well. Other than that, some Dark Resist. We're also using his Tybus' STMR because I don't have an EX2, so I'm using the best I can. It's a lower LB buff, but it's something. And then Zohar's Access. Mine's not finished being crafted, so it's only 100%. At +4, it's 180 auto buff to Machine Killer, so I'm just not done farming it yet. I'm waiting until the second week final boss to do my real farming. Shift form, Crown cap up with the Magisters, Killers versus Aqua and Machine, and there we go. Maxed LB, Max Machine, and 225 Aqua. So EX1 id mostly carried it for the most part. Now we're going to be going to the A boss, Emphysema. There you go. And this one is a dragon machine. So we're going to swap gear really quickly. This should not take long, I don't think. Thankfully, this one does not have evasion. So we're going to, let's see, Cursed Doll. I got a little list here. For VV, the swaps we're making, so this shouldn't take too long. I prepared in advance. Mechanic, Corrupted, we need Dragon Killer, and Keeper of Draconia. So we can do that easily with this. So Dragon. So Dragon Killer plus, and Keeper of Draconia plus. There we go. And we're going to adjust ID's killers. We don't need Ruler of the Sea and Sky. We need Last Guardian, and we don't need Aqua Killer. We need Dragon Killer plus. Let's see. We don't need Machine Killer. We want all the Dragon Killer. So this should have capped me on Dragon Killer, I think. Maxed Dragon 275. Actually, we can do this. Yep, this is why I should have cut the video. I always do this. At this point, it's too late. Nomad's Necklace. There we go. Max Dragon and Max Machine. Perfect. So here is our ID build for the next boss, and here is our VV build for the next boss. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to kill on turn 2 because we don't need to go to turn 3 because we don't need to imbue ID with Earth, so we can just go right away on turn 2. We do need to do Tybus's SGMR though. And yeah, so thankfully this boss does not have evasion, so this will be super easy. So ID's going to go ahead and Tybus's Spirit on turn 1. VV. Oh, this one, by the way, is a Thunder week. So we're going to use VV to imbue Thunder. So we're going to imbue Thunder as well as Fire, and then that. We're going to use Aerith. First, let's go ahead and use Louise to incapacitate Firestarter, Diverse, and Ionic. We can do this. We can have Venera break, and Steiner can just fill LB gauge. Now we're using Dark Resist on everyone, which is this is the fight we did it for, so that we don't need to worry about. Oh, the boss counterattacks. So make sure anyone attacking on turn 1 is using evasion, because the boss does counter, and our Louise is evading, so that was good. Anyway. So let's see, Aerith is now going to Rod and just Amp. We already did Venera. We can just punch Venera for weakness damage. Louise, do we need LB on Steiner? We don't. So Louise is good to go. We can just Ionic a few times. VV can shift. The reason I'm Ionic is for weakness damage, because VV doesn't actually do weakness damage all by himself. Oh, you know what I could do is, we're going to do Thundega instead, because the boss is weak to Thunder. So look at this, Thundega. Even better. And ID will do his LB. Wait for all this to finish. Oh, and it helps to do Steiner's LB, doesn't it? I almost didn't. Okay, so we're going to target. We're going to wait for Steiner to finish. Okay, do this. And do ID. And this should probably easily damage cap. We're going to find out in just a second. I don't know. But at the very least, VV is on element this time, which is helpful. So we need 2.06, Dragon Machine. It is still wrong element, but, oh yeah, 2.5. Not that much higher, honestly. Probably because I was actually on the Fire party slot. I should have been on the Thunder party slot, so VV got the 20% Dark Visions boost. He actually didn't get it on that. And ID would have still gotten it because he was imbued with Thunder. Yeah, so there we go. So, you know, VV should have done 20% more because I didn't put him on the right party slot. That was my mistake. I'm kind of doing this on the fly here. You know, I sort of pre-planned this, but not specifically. So anyhow, and you can do the exact same thing with Deus, and it'll be the same thing. He is actually weak to fire, so if we went and did the same team on him, you know, proper element, we dramatically overcap because ID would not be getting a damage penalty anymore. So anyway, so if you happen to get trolled by ID, he's not a worthless unit. He can still do damage. He's just not anywhere near as good as Graph, which is why it feels a little bad if you pull him like I did. But if you did pull him, like someone said, you know, make lemonade. Do what you can. So here is a way to perfect score the 2 hardest week 1 bosses if you happen to pull ID. So there you go. And also you can do the same thing with Fae, FYI. If you have a Fae, It's a little harder because Dark amplifies and all, and Faye needs a big LB buff. But if you did pull Faye instead of id, or you have Faye from, you know, old copies or something, bring like Kryla and do a big Dark amplify on Faye and use him to blow these bosses up. If your Faye is EX2, he has his own LB buff, so you don't actually need Tybus's. So there you go. It helps. See you tomorrow for the final 2 bosses. See you then.